What's going on, everybody? We're back for another episode of Rooted in Greatness. I'm so excited. Guys, you ever had those conversations, and when you have the conversation, you're like, this is a conversation that other people need to have here. That's exactly what this is today. My guest today is a parent, an author, a leader in his community, a husband, a family man, and a builder of men. Let me say that, a builder of men and a builder of family. And he even out there in the housing market, y'all. So, hey, you need a house. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But no, I want to introduce you guys to a person that I met, and it was a transformational conversation for me. I don't even know if I kind of alluded to that with him, but I really enjoyed meeting George. But I want y'all to meet George like I met George. But y'all, without further ado, man, George Bachelor's in the building. What's up, George? Thank you for being with us today.
Rico, my pleasure, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for welcoming me to your podcast. I'll reiterate what you said. Our initial conversation was wonderful and left some lasting impressions. So definitely happy to get on the call with you now.
Well, man, let's jump right into this conversation. Rooted in Greatness, what we're seeking to do, George, is really talk to people about how faith impacts this athletic journey. And I know you've got kids in athletics, you were in athletics. I want to start with you and talk about kind of just for you, what your journey was through athletics. And then we transition to you raising athletes, right? So let's start with you. What was your journey like in athletics? What sports did you play, and what was your story?
So for me, I grew up in the Bronx, New York, like typical kids. I was involved with sports. I played baseball. I played basketball primarily. Really had a love for the game and kind of continued on up through high school, so on and so forth. So for me, sports has been a lifelong commitment and journey. As I got older and started having children, I got into coaching, and that was kind of a transformational journey for me, in terms of seeing it from a different perspective. And again, like you mentioned, having children play sports also gives you the parental aspect of having, watching sports and kind of being a spectator from that light. So I'm also a referee, a basketball official. So that gives me another unique perspective on how, how to kind of look at the game. So sports has been kind of encompassed my life, thus far.
Man, I think I just love all the viewpoints you've had, right? Because that's a real vast view. Playing, parenting, refereeing. It's not a lot of people who actually can say they played the game, parented in the game, and refereed in it. And so now you have those, it's almost like a trifecta view, and coached.
Yes.
I forgot about and coaching.
Yeah.
So those are all different hats. Tell me, there's no way possible that I can even go to the next question without saying, how did faith impact your journey from you being in it, going into parenting, coaching, and refereeing? How has faith been a part of your own journey?
So faith, for me is more, kind of understanding, right? So when you have an understanding of something and different dynamics, you have a better perspective on how you could help people, right? So, when you understand different perspectives, your faith kind of guides you to kind of do the right thing and have a base, a knowledge base to where you could actually help people, So my faith carries me through that with that understanding, from those various perspectives.
I think I love that you said your faith is understanding, because it takes me to the scripture in the Bible that says wisdom is the principal thing, like in all you're getting to get understanding. And when you said that faith is understanding, it quickly for me touched the tapestry of the hats that you wear, right?
100%.
That's so powerful, because if faith is understanding, then that means that it's has this eternal perspective and paradigm that I can take into any market and is useful for me.
Yes.
And tell me, when it comes to kind of you as a player, when you were playing the game, what caused you difficulty where you had to lean into getting a better understanding? and then I'm gonna go to parent, and then I'm gonna go to a coach, and then I'm going to the referee.
I mean, as a player, you kind of, you're in the moment, you kind of have this linear vision of what's
Mhm.
happening, when you're doing it. And sometimes, you speak with your coach and try to understand what he's seeing, in that dynamic, because he's looking at it from a macro perspective
Mhm.
and you're here as a player, right?
Mhm.
So trying to gain a better understanding of the larger picture of what's going on versus just being in the moment, you know, to look at it that way.
Yo, first of all, just the answer, George, alone that you just dropped, literally for me, I was like, dang, I see how that goes with parenting. I see how
Yes.
that goes with
It's all transferable, 100%.
coaching. I see how that goes with refereeing because you have the the micro, but then you also have the macro view.
Yes.
And then now it ties right back to the understanding piece.
Yes.
Like, really, what do you understand about a person as a player? What do you understand about the player as a coach,
Yes.
as a parent? What do you understand about your responsibility, your role, and then what do you understand about your child? And let's go on and go here
Let's go.
because
Let's go.
how many children do you have?
Three. Three.
Three. George, guess how many I got, George?
How many you got?
Me and my wife together, we have 8.
God bless you, man. God bless you, man.
Hey, that's from the ages of 8 years old is the youngest, all the way up to 31 is the oldest.
Man, that's a beautiful thing, man.
So, with that being said, the
Hmm.
direction I wanna go is because I think parents need to hear this when it comes to sports. You can get into a lens, and as a personal trainer, I think a lot of people hear me say, "I was a personal trainer for 15 years."
Hmm.
And they think there's one modality with that, right? But with your children, the thing where you say these principles are transferable, one of the things that having the children taught me is that every athlete that I train is different. Every kid that I have is different.
Yes.
And I can try my best to have this like this foundation that you stand on, but sometimes what I saw was the foundational things that were important, you lay those, but those building blocks and things that you got to build, you literally got to take that foundation and make sure that where the dips in the ground are, that you put a little bit more there for that one because,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that one ain't as solid.
Yeah. Yes.
That one's ground might have some little cracks.
Yes.
Tell me what that experience has been like for you as a dad, though, parenting 3 children and where you say those skills are transferable. How did your understanding help you with navigating through the sports career of your child?
Well, like you said, everyone has their own personality,
Mhm,
everyone is unique in their own way. So kind of understanding the characters involved, not to use that word, but the individuals involved, what their personalities are, what makes them tick,
mhm.
what motivates them, what can you do to affect that individual based on their personality and their way of thinking, right? Is really,
Yeah.
really, really important to understand. Each person, yeah, you have a foundation, but you have to shape and mold it according to that individual child.
Man, and I love honestly the word you used first was perfect character because I tell people when we tell people they need to become a person of character, sometimes what I think happens is that people don't recognize the character that a person is.
Yes.
Right? And so when you tell them they have to become a person of character, obviously then that becomes a little difficult because what you're telling me is that who I am is actually not enough and I need to figure out something else to be. So I love that you said the character that they are because character in is the character that comes out.
100%.
Tell me you have a book that you wrote
Yes.
and that book almost I don't want to say fits a character, but it definitely heals a narrative. The way I see it, it doesn't fit a character. It heals a narrative about the character of autism and people who are in this industry and do sport. And I want to hear just a little bit about your book, name of the book, and kind of why you wrote the book. What drove that for you?
So for this particular book, Parent Coach System for Children with Student Athletes with
Mhm.
ADHD, right? So the book that's the title, the Parent Coach System for Student Athletes with ADHD.
With AD.
Yes, sir. So the book really was the genesis of the book was based off of a coaching experience that I had,
Mm,
with a player, particularly young player who kind of exhibited some of those characteristics, right? You
mhm.
talk about character and healing and that sort of thing. You're 100% correct. So I kind of identified some of those things, but not really knowing exactly what it was that was out of place, right?
Mm.
So, there was some behavioral things that kind of was exhibited, during the course of me coaching them and kind of took a step back and said, this is a good kid,
Mhm.
great athlete. There's something deeper going on here, right?
Right,
So in
right.
talking with his parents, kind of discovered that, he's diagnosed with ADHD,
Mhm, mhm,
which explains, the non-attentiveness sometimes, the reactionary behavior when something goes wrong,
mhm, mhm.
unable to control emotion, at some points. So that kind of led me into, how many other coaches are kind of dealing with this and not knowing, right?
Right,
How many other kids are misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all?
right, right.
Right. So it's a dangerous thing when kids get labeled as something and that's not the true definition of what they are or the character that they are because they weren't diagnosed properly or it wasn't identified. Right.
Come on.
So the,
Listen, if you allow me, because you just said that, man, like how many young people, how many student athletes have been diagnosed or identified, and how many have not been diagnosed or identified? And I'm not saying one way or the other that there should be more or less. But what I do love is that what you've done is say, as a coach, have I stepped back out of my title as coach and really looked at my player to say, what do they need in order for them to be successful that may be different than other student athletes? Like, I need to laser in on this.
yes. So,
Tell me, go
I'm sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, tell me what were some of the things for you that you lasered in on, George, where you were like, man, here I am thinking that you were like just not paying attention to me, raising my voice at you, but I see you have actually a struggle with keeping your focus here. What were some of the tools you implemented?
Well, some of the tools I implemented, I started doing some research on it and discovered that kids with ADHD, they have like kind of an issue with doing repetitive things, right? Because
Woo!
their mind can't grasp something that seems, boring, right?
Right.
But as you know, with sports, repetition is key to mastery, right?
That's right.
So
Hmm.
understanding that and understanding this need for him, I kind of had to change a little bit, alter the way I did drills, the way I coached, kind of doing things one at a time
Hmm.
in layers and not just overwhelm with, repetitious action and repetitious drills and you kind of break it up a little bit to make it more, soluble.
Listen, and I first of all, shout out to you because what year was this you were doing this?
This was recent, man. This is probably about 2 years ago,
So, first of all, I love that where the game has evolved and where the evolution of the game is that people are thinking through kind of what individual needs. In schools, we have individualized education plans. And so, what you're leaning into now is talking about, and I don't even know that this exists in the sports realm, but individualized sport coaching plans, right? Like, where, yes, you have a plan for the team, but individually, we might have a plan for positions, but even within a position, there may be individuals within it that actually have a different learning ability. And I think you're onto something. I'm excited to see where this goes. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Tarico, the book is I'm so glad you said that because the book covers that. It basically gives some strategies, some tools you can use, from an individual athlete perspective
Mhm.
If you go to the back of the book, there's some checklists. There's a series of coaching points and notes that kind of tailor to a specific athlete. And I also put in there an agreement between coach and parent because
Ooh,
so has to be an agreement. There has to be alignment, right? Between all parties, coaches,
that's right.
teachers, and parents, right? So there's an agreement in the back of the book that a coach and parents sit down, put together a structured plan for a particular athlete to make their journey a lot better and successful.
Man, that's powerful. Now, I'm gonna ask this at the end, but I think this is a great place to say, where can they get this book from? Because I
So,
think coaches might need to get this book too.
listen, the book was written for coaches and for parents.
This
You
is
can,
awesome.
yeah, the book is definitely, and I'm not saying this because I wrote it. The
Mhm.
book is definitely a great resource, and you don't have to waste your time doing all the research. I did it for you.
There you go.
You get the book on Amazon.com,
Mhm.
and that's where it sits. That's where it lives. Go on Amazon.com, and you can pick it up, and you will not be disappointed. It's a great tool, very practical strategies in there. It's not just theory. I give a lot of examples of strategies you can use to help these athletes.
No, I think that's so great, guys. We're gonna drop to make sure that this is the link to the book is dropped in the description so that you guys can go and purchase this for yourselves and jump on this. I want to dialogue a little more about this though, George, because I think when you talk about ADHD and so many people have been diagnosed with it, because I see this other split side of this conversation where some people have been diagnosed and now because of the diagnosis, like they don't see that they have the ability to do things. And so I feel like what this book does is actually builds that faith, right? And you may have to learn differently, but differently is not a inability, right? You still have ability. Tell me how you were able to encourage and strengthen their faith in themselves with this book and because this was a real situation and scenario for you with an athlete. Let's talk about that impact.
Yeah, so just have to understand that, it's a physiological thing. It's not the person. It's actually a physiological thing where it's not something that they ask to have or
Right.
right. So their brain can't regulate attention and their emotions and things like that. So some of the strategies that you can use for these particular athletes is just
Mhm.
basically having a structure in place, having a routine,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Having what I call resets, right? So if they're going through an episode, have a word, have a technique, a breathing technique, have them stop, pause, breathe, relax, and reset, refocus, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the ADHD kids they have time management issues.
Okay.
So basically, if you structure things, they're very visual too. That's another thing I learned as a coach, right? Because I used to give a lot of instructions as dialogue. Look, this. But those individuals are very visual,
Mhm.
kind of tailored practice to like, this is how you do it. And and go through the demonstrations of physically showing and demonstrating versus instructional dialogue. Doing things one by one, step by step, as opposed to layered instruction also helps them as well. But visuals, having up a whiteboard, having checklists, those are things that help them to be successful.
That's I think first of all that you just gave already was like some strategies. Y'all go get the book because he just dropped already some strategies for you coaches out there. And when it comes to parents, George, like was that helpful for you kind of even knowing and communicating with that parent about what the needs were, what are the things that they were implementing even at home? Because I imagine that also builds like a tandem, if you would, with the parent versus because a lot of times you have two different kinds of scenarios where one is coaches who don't want parent involvement at all, right? But then coaches who actually see that they are an extension almost of the parent. Is that what it created for you working with this particular athlete?
Most definitely. Definitely a tandem, definitely a team. Definitely a team effort to be able to pair and partner with parents, speak the same language. So
Yeah.
child isn't getting mixed messages. They have a consistent message. Building that confidence and discipline they need in order to succeed is vital.
Mm.
The books speaks to that point that, the parenting and the coaching, it does go hand in hand because a lot of the principles that you want to convey to the kid is transferable to schoolwork, to life, to sports. These are all transferable skills that they're going to need anyway to develop. So 100% partnership and the parent and coaching dynamic is definitely needed.
When you even touch on that, like, it makes me think, there's a scripture in the Bible says that a threefold cord is not quickly broken.
Yes.
When you have those kinda intertwinings, like you said, you have you, the parent, and the kid and the student athlete, and that intertwining of that relationship, all it creates a knot that where this kid can be, like you said, victorious, and the transferable skill that you're doing with them literally encourages the modality for them outside of the sport. Because
Yes.
now you're giving me tools of how I'm able to learn and understand concepts, and I can take this stuff back in the classroom.
Yes.
Let's go and thank you so much, guys. Listen, go get the book. I want to shift the conversation now to that's where kind of you went on a journey for the book aspect of it, but you still have a athlete in your household. So now for me, it made me think just in having this conversation, I wonder how this study influenced even maybe some of the things that you do with your own athlete. How is that writing that book and putting that together helped you as a parent in coaching and refereeing your own job?
Yeah. So I don't coach my son anymore. He's a little older now, but
Okay,
but
okay.
you mean just from a parenting perspective?
Huh? Mhm.
You know, uh, yeah, I definitely did some self-reflection, on being more of a support system for my son.
Mhm.
A lot of times you get the mixed messages, if I'm
Mhm.
telling him something, his coach is telling him something. As a parent, you got to step back, let the coach do their job sometimes, in that regard, in terms of the instruction and the in the game stuff,
Mhm.
But definitely did some reflection on, allowing him to kind of feel his way through with certain things
Mhm.
from an athletic perspective and just be a support system, as opposed to kind of getting your hands too deep into the pie, so to speak.
No, George, that's good because a lot of parents struggle with transition, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that you go from being the authoritative fixture in your child's life to how do I still have that honor and respect for them becoming who they want to be in sport, right? I think a lot of parents have an identity, even me. I remember my son when he came to me his sophomore year of high school and he was playing football, started, was doing really well, but came to me and was like, Dad, I need to have a conversation with you. And I said, What? What was the conversation? And he's like, I know you're not going to want to hear this. And I said, You already done made a decision for me on whether I want to hear it.
Right.
And he was like, I just know it's gonna be disappointing for you. I said, what's that? And he was like, I don't wanna play football anymore. And I said, okay. I said, can I ask why?
Mm,
And he said, yeah. He said, I've thought about it. He was like, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, like I love music more.
mm.
And from the dad perspective, of course, football guy, of course.
Of course, of
I'm
course.
not gonna pretend that it wasn't no impact, George. I ain't gonna
Yeah, of course.
pretend.
No, you can't. You can't.
However,
Mhm.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I said to my son, the journey that you're on belongs to you. I'm here to put your wings on and was here to teach you how to fly. And if your flight is through music, I'm about to be the same way I am with football for you in music. So long as you gonna accept me as a coach and support. in music, a fan in music.
Yes.
I told him, I said, "Son, it's not gonna change me. I'm gonna gird you up, and I'm still gonna encourage you, push you in the direction you wanna go." And years later now, he'll be 20 this year. I'm really proud of him. He got into Berklee School of Music, so
God
he didn't
bless.
just do music. He showed me that he really was interested in music.
Beautiful.
He's writing music now, working on producing his first song,
Wow.
and hopefully that's gonna turn into some other things for him. Let me ask you, and that's why I said that support thing is really powerful for parents to hear.
Yes.
For you, what has been the way that you supported him in strengthening his identity in faith, like as he goes through the journey in athletics?
Basically, the support is through kind of putting him in spaces where he could be seen, putting him in spaces where he can learn, where he can develop and grow, and also just really keeping the foundation of belief in God and staying in his prayers, man, and like really having faith to get where he wants to go and just really believing that God has his back.
Come on now. Woo! You said something that's so powerful, like believing that God has his back. Because a lot of times, a lot of athletes really equate the outcome
Yes,
just with their work,
100%.
right? And it's interesting to me. I see this in sport. I saw this person interviewing Mike Tyson and asking Mike Tyson, "So Mike, man, you worked so hard day and night to become the kind of athlete that you became." And Mike looked at him and said, "That's not why I became the kind of athlete that I am."
Mm,
And the guy like froze. You could tell he froze up in the interview. He was like, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Mike said
mm,
that. "Why are you looking at me like that?" He said, "Yeah, Mike, because it was your hard work that got you to here." And Mike
mm,
said, "No, it's not." He said, "That's what everybody want to say."
mm.
He's like, "But I got here because of God." And he was like, "I get what y'all think that because," he was like, "Look at my life." He said, "If you're gonna tell the story, don't just tell that I did hard work." He said, "Tell the story that I was a knucklehead." And he was like, "And I got in trouble." And he said, "I didn't get here just because of hard work." He said, "Hard work was a part of the journey." But he
Yes.
was like, "God had to get me here." Because he was like, he said, "I was too gone in my head."
Yeah.
He's like, "So what got my head together is the question."
Yeah.
He said, "And God did that."
Through him, all things are possible.
Exactly what you said. So it's interesting to me how many people try to exclude God from sport. And what we're doing is saying, "Hey guys, I know we're telling people they're elite, but maybe there's a component that we're leaving out." And so we're telling them they're elite. So that's why they're so focused on the outcome. That's why they're focused on how much money they can make. Because you told them that the external things that they do is the most valuable thing they can do. But what we're seeing flee from our young athletes are those character pieces. I'll go back to the words you said earlier,
Yeah.
or the other words you used, understanding, like being understanding even when you experience loss. How do you, George, help your athletes? And even from a referee's perspective, I imagine you end up in positions where you have to coach an athlete and say, "Hey, hey, 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 that's too much. Let's pull back." Or, "Hey, you do that again, I'm gonna have to blow my whistle."
Yeah.
Tell me about what that's like for you in helping them to kind of progress forward.
Well, from a referee's perspective, I mean, you get caught up in, well, the players get caught up in the emotions of the game, right? So
Mhm.
as the game gets played, you monitor, obviously you monitor what's going on and you have to make calls when you have to. But when the athletes get kind of a little bit out of control or overly excited, I usually pull them aside a little bit and say, listen, this is not the way to go, or this might be a better way of doing things. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm.
I don't want to have to over regulate, over police the game. You govern yourself accordingly, right? But encouragement goes a long way.
And for you, like the encouragement, you say it goes a long way for them. What helps you psychologically in being a referee? Because I imagine that some games can be difficult. And man, unfortunately, a county that I'm from made national news from when I was playing football. I remember this county, there was this fight and these referees got, oh my gosh, it was embarrassing what happened. How do you deal psychologically with being a ref on the court or on the field and having to navigate the fans, having to navigate the players, having to navigate the coaches, having to navigate the parents? Because all of those are things that you have to deal with psychologically.
So it's cool that you asked that, because a lot of people won't ask a referee that. They don't know that there's so much that goes into wearing stripes and what you have to deal with, right? Because they're
Mhm.
looking at it through their lens.
Mhm.
But I'll answer your question with one word again: understanding. And I say that because I was a player, right? I am a parent of an athlete. I am a coach. So I get it. I get it, right? So if I get interaction from a coach, I get it. If I hear
Mm.
something from a player, I get it. If I hear parents doing this, I get it.
Mm.
I get it. So I have an understanding of so psychologically I'm able to kind of process a lot of that without getting into my feelings about it.
Man, George, we need a person like you going and taking the training into these locker rooms, because let's just be honest that even at the collegiate and professional level, we see these interactions and things that go on where there is no understanding.
Yes.
And when you don't have understanding, you're not able to process things through an in an understanding way, then that creates more chaos in the lives. And I think that's not just something that our athletes need to know, student athletes need to know, but our coaches as well as referees and parents. Like those are four pathways that I think we know that is going to be around sport, right?
Yes.
Every sport is going to have a parent. Every sport is going to have the student athlete. Every sport is going to have a referee in some way,
Yep.
right? And every sport is going to have a coach. And
Yes.
all those tandems have to have understanding for each other's roles,
Yes, they do.
right? Because if you don't have understanding about each other's roles almost a reverence and respect for 'em, right?
Yeah.
That there's this student athlete that's right there in the middle of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say like walking with understanding, that student athlete is watching whether you are operating in understanding. And that's as a referee, that's as a coach, and
Mm-hmm.
that's as a parent.
Yes.
They are learning how to respond. I was just at a flag football game
Mm-hmm.
2 weekends ago for one
Okay.
of my athletes. I went to go watch him out there play,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm standing just as a spectator, and something happens in the middle of the game, and this parent sitting right in front of me jumps up and snaps
Boy.
and snaps.
Yep.
But I wanna show you what I mean by them watching. So the parent starts snapping, the referee's trying to get order,
Mm-hmm.
the parent says a profane thing to the referee, who's a young girl herself. The young girl, in her immaturity, comes back at the parent. Now the coach on the sidelines married to the woman.
Lord.
Right? So so that triggers him.
Yeah. Yep.
He's talking to the wife saying, "Stop, sit down."
Mm-hmm.
Then another parent gets in it. The kid gets kicked out of the game. Now he's yelling and screaming. I'm sitting here as a spectator like,
Can't believe it.
wow, if everybody just had understanding.
Yep.
If everybody just had understanding. And I went to the league owner and said, "Hey man, I think mental performance wise, I can help you.
Yeah.
I can help you and offer something for your parents and your coaches and your
Yes.
players."
Yes. Yes.
So I say that to you to say I really appreciate that you're in this work, and I want to say that you're much needed in this work, even through the perspective and the lenses that you have. So thank you that you created and curated this book that's focusing on ADHD. But what I see is that it also gives the opportunity for, like I said, coaches, parents, referees, because I ain't even, we're talking about coaches and parents, but even referees need to understand that too, that in the middle of a game, that a person diagnosed with ADHD may not have
Yeah.
the same responses.
Yes.
So there's a whole nother bandwidth kind of that needs to have this conversation. And I think you're on the cusp of something that can be majorly impactful. I want to ask you this, man. When it comes, George, to kind of where you see sports is headed with NIL, how do they keep themselves from losing God as it pertains to? There's a scripture that says, "For what shall it profit a man that he shall gain the whole world but lose his soul?" And then it asks this second question: what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?
That's a deep. That might be another conversation. That might be another conversation, man. That's a very, very deep, deep, deep topic, what you just mentioned. But I mean, I can keep it broad and just say, from an NIL perspective, it's difficult for a young adolescent or a young man to, presented with the kind of money that they're kind of giving out nowadays to, be grounded
Yeah.
and understand, like, this is a journey that I'm on. I work for this, God has put me in a position to get these means, but to still be able to have enough faith, as you say, to like know that this is where it stemmed from, is God, but to be practical about it and to be humble about it and to not think that it's the most important part of what they're doing, right? It's really, I'm from the school of I love the game, right?
Mm.
I love the game, right? So if you love the game, you know that money is just a secondary part of a branch of the game.
That's good. That's good. I think that statement is powerful, that if your love is the game, then money is the secondary part of it. That's powerful because that's a wisdom, like understanding, right? That you can lay that foundationally. Guys, listen, know that you've been purposed to be here.
Yes.
And because you're purposed to be in the game, the resources that are a part of this, money is just one of them.
Amen.
Right. And keeping that focus so that it's not the other way around, where the Bible says the love of money
Mhm.
is the root to evil. Right. So keep the love on your purpose and why you're here, like
Yes.
why you came.
Yes.
Don't water the game, because we see that happening already.
All right.
And I'm so excited the more I see the regulation coming around this, because I do believe that athletes should get paid. People are earning money off of them, but I will say that I think having those regulations around them and those things that make it healthy for them, because I
Yes.
don't think anybody's meaning for this to enforce like unhealthy identity on
Hmm.
young people. But I
Hmm.
do think it could be a catalyst for financial freedom
Of course.
if it's utilized in a healthy way. What's one thing that you would like parents to take away from this conversation about faith in sports, and that you will think will help drive this narrative of being supported forward between them and their athlete? Because I can hear a lot of parents right now that says this kid is really bothering me because I'm asking them to do these things. And sometimes as a parent, can I speak to this? Sometimes as a parent, sometimes it's really not understood the amount of mental pressure that their athlete is
Yeah.
actually under. And sometimes, watch this, from the parent.
Yes.
Not I'm not talking about just the pressure from school and sport. I'm talking about sometimes they take that pressure that comes from, I got to help my family, pressure that comes from, they've sacrificed so much for me, so I have got to go be successful in this. And it becomes almost like a shot in them that is actually extracting from them. And I have to say, listen, I'm speaking from a mental performance space where I have to say to them, I need you to take that weight off, because you're being unfair to yourself, and you've got to allow yourself to grow to become. So I want you to speak to parents, because you seem to have the understanding about your role in being supportive and encouraging. Speak to the parent that is not supportive and encouraging.
To that, I would just say, supporting your athlete the best way you can, and keep your expectations
Mm,
to a point where you're not putting too much on the athlete. Expectations, you know, you be very surprised how much weight that puts on a child, psychologically, emotionally. And the thing with kids is they don't want to let you down. They don't want to let
Yeah.
us down. They don't want to let us down. Right. So keep the expectations intact and in line. Right. And just support that athlete. Love that athlete,
Mm,
in any way you can without overbearing pressure and expectations. Patience over pressure is what I usually say.
mm. That's powerful. Patience over pressure. It's interesting hearing you say what you said about expectation because it brings up Michael Jordan for me. I just watched the interview this week with Michael Jordan, whole interview, and they asked him, "What are the expectations you have for your children?" And his answer was so powerful. He said to them, "My kids grew up in a household where they lived in success. They lived with success, how the world framed it."
Yes.
And he said, so what I said to all my children, and I still say to them to this day, my expectations for you is for you to have expectation. He said, so I don't expect my children to do what I expect. He said, I will know they're successful when they do what they expect. And that was so powerful for me.
That
I
is
was like, whoa,
that's super powerful. Super
like,
powerful.
and it speaks to what you're saying to encourage parents, practice patience over the pressure. Like, be patient as they process while they're on the road to get there.
Yes.
Absolutely encourage them, absolutely motivate them, absolutely stand by them, absolutely speak up for them, but patience over the pressure. I love that, man. That might be in your next book.
That
That might be your next book.
might be the next one.
Patience over pressure. George, thank you so much for being with me. Like I said, after speaking to you that time that we spoke, I knew that I wanted to get your voice out there and this book into the hands of people who could benefit the most. So, coaches, parents, even referees, I want to encourage you guys to go out and purchase this book on Amazon. We're going to make sure that the link is in the description for you guys. So listen, how can people get in touch with you? Because I only imagine that once people get this book with these frameworks, that it's one thing to read it, and it's another thing to have the person here training us in this. How could people get in touch with you, George, if they want to get you to come in and do some workshops?
Well, I would say, on this platform, I would work through you, Tarico.
Okay,
That's okay. Then
absolutely.
certainly make myself available at your call.
Absolutely. So, guys, listen, I'm going to put his information, and definitely if you guys are interested in having George come in, work with your team, coaches, maybe you need that work. Parents, maybe you need that work. I just want to let you guys know I wanted to expose you guys. Yes, we're called exposure for this reason to somebody that I believe could come in and provide some understanding. All right. The Bible says in Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. It says, and in all of your getting, get understanding, get wisdom. So if you don't get nothing else from this podcast today, make sure you extract the wisdom that you just heard from George Batchelor. George, thank you so much for being with me today.
My pleasure.